Can I have your attention, please? We're going to do a quick presentation. We're not going to use the mic. I guess the mic's not working very good, so hopefully you can hear me. If you can't, move forward. I'll try to talk very loud. So thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you coming out tonight. About taking the time to come here and look at our plans for our public safety building, our police and fire departments, and seeing where they're going to be. And we're also going to touch a little bit on our other city facilities as we're incorporating that into our building improvement program. Our staff and representatives from C&H, our architectural firm, will take you through our planning process and get you where we are today and prepare us for the future. But before I turn it over to Elise, I want to briefly talk about why the building improvement program is important and how it fits into our strategic plan. The building improvement program covers our city hall, our library, our police department, our fire department, and our municipal services building, or MSB is what we call it. Most of these buildings are 30 years old, and even the fire station is creeping up on 30 years old. Makes me really feel old. I opened the public works building, I opened the fire department, working at those two places, and makes me feel old. But a lot has changed in the last 30 years. When most of these buildings were built, our city population was 10,000 people. We're now, my notes say 27,000, but we're 28 plus right now. So we're moving right up. As Chaska has grown, though, we've added staff, we've needed to add equipment to keep our city facilities running at a high level, but these buildings, unfortunately, haven't kept up. We've had to be creative. We squeezed as much as possible into different spaces, and we're getting as much out of these buildings as we can for workspaces for our employees and storage areas for our equipment. While we've run out of spaces and our buildings are in the state that they are effectively now, they are affecting how we efficiently provide our services, because we can't do everything. When we got together for our council department head retreat in 2021, which we hold every year, we took a hard look at how to address our future of our facilities. We built a strategic plan with 6 visions for 2025. One of those visions is that Chaska has quality facilities. As part of that vision, we developed a direction to reinvest our core assets so that our buildings are adequate to meet the growth in the community and reflect our community pride. We are not looking to turn these buildings into the fanciest places with all the bells and whistles. We're just looking to make them functional and have them flexibility to meet our current and future needs. We need to provide quality spaces for our employees so that they can continue to provide those quality services. Right now, if it rains, we have people that's sitting in City Hall that have to have an umbrella in certain places because of leaks. We fix one, and then we always seem to come up with another one. We've got equipment at our MSB that we're storing outside that's expensive equipment that should not be stored outside, and the computers and the cold weather really affects those things. So those are some of the things that we're talking about. But we also know that there's a huge tax impact on our homeowners, and I can tell you that we didn't take that lightly. We're focused on being cost conscious as we take on this building improvement program. That's why we're here tonight. We want to explain the process behind the numbers. There's been a lot of time and effort dedicated to putting this together. Today, we are talking mostly about our public safety facility, which would be the home for our police and fire department. I encourage you to take a look at all the boards around the room, ask questions. We have council members, city staff, and representatives from our architect, C&H. Thanks again for coming out tonight. I know that I've said it before, but we really do appreciate you coming here. This is a great opportunity to learn more, and maybe more importantly, to have an opportunity to talk to us. Having a good old-fashioned conversation is sometimes the best way to connect. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Elise at this point. Oh, gotta give you that.
Well, good evening and thank you for coming. My name is Elise Durbin. I'm the Assistant City Administrator here at the City of Chaska. Before we get too far into the presentation tonight, just note that at the end we'll take some Q&A, and if you're not comfortable in kind of that more formal setting, we have a number of city staff and all of our council members here to help answer those questions as well. I do want to note that there are 2 rooms across the hall. They are showing virtual tours of both our police station and our fire station. Since we aren't actually in those buildings tonight, we wanted to be able to provide that opportunity for you. And if you miss it tonight and can't make it or can't stop and see it, it is on our website right now. So feel free to jump on and take a look at those at any time. So to get started this evening, really, as the mayor noted, our program right now that we're focusing on, and the purpose of this meeting tonight is to focus on the four buildings in particular: the public safety facility, which will be police and fire; our municipal services building, which covers our electric department, our public works department, and our water and sewer departments; the library, and city hall. I know there's been a lot of talk out there about the community center. Tonight we don't plan to cover that in detail. We are creating a master plan for the community center right now and developing that vision for the future. And just to note, we haven't identified funding sources for that, but if anybody would like to talk about that further, we're happy to do it kind of in an offline conversation. So why now? Again, the mayor touched on this a little bit already, but our city hall, our police station, our municipal service buildings are over 35 years old. We were just doing the math this morning to make sure we had those numbers right, and it actually kind of amazed us that they were that old. And our fire station is nearly 30 years old. And while we have done maintenance on these facilities, they haven't been able to keep up with the overall nature of what's happening now. And if we continue to kind of wait and do something about it, that maintenance costs will go up and be unaffordable at some point in time. Additionally, not much space has been added over time to increase the number of employees and the equipment that are necessary to accommodate our community of 28,000 residents. Additionally, in the next 15 years, we anticipate another 12 to 13,000 folks will be moving into the city of Chaska. So how do we make sure we have enough, our facilities are sized to be able to meet that growing demand? Additionally, the original facilities, when they were built, used one-time funding. The mechanism that is being talked about this evening to fund that, and what a lot of communities use, is that ability to issue debt, so that when that debt rolls off, we're able to take that and put that back into the facilities at that time. Additionally, how we got here now is a space study. So back a number of years ago, we hired an architect firm, Leo A. Daly, to identify our current square footage needs as well as our future square footage needs. They really worked with city staff and the council to understand what are our needs going into the future when we know kind of what that population is going to look like. They developed concept plans, and our goal was to see if we could get those facilities to be located on existing city sites so we didn't have to go out and buy anything else. And additionally, so all those findings that we had working with Leo A. Daly have led to our building improvement plan, which includes those funding recommendations that we'll talk about tonight. So public engagement, this is one of just many things that we've done over the past couple years in engaging the community in this process. And I'm not going to go line by line through it, but I just want to point out that it's been very important to the city council that we're out there, they're out there talking to the public. So this just kind of gives you an overview of what we've done. I'm going to turn it over here in a second to our police chief, Chief Seibert, to talk about kind of the fire. But the number one priority as we've come out of that building improvement plan is to look at the police and fire needs. And we'll have them talk a little bit more about why that's so important.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. Like Elise said, I'm Ryan Seibert. I'm the Chaska Police Chief. So I'm going to keep my comments brief because I've been known to probably talk too much. But afterwards, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, we can always go over to one of the other rooms where there's a virtual feed where I give a tour of the department. So one of the first things we wanted to talk about is why a unified campus. So where the current fire department is located, that's a centrally located facility within the city. But what is also a benefit with a unified campus is we'd have a shared community space because there is a considerable amount of engagement programming done by the police department as well as the fire department. And it also offers the ability for potentially some type of mutual training, certainly shared training spaces, as well as an emergency operations center, which is something that I wouldn't say is commonly used, but it is not infrequent for us to stand up the EOC. So again, at a shared facility, we would share those resources and not have to have a redundancy between two different locations. And if you've looked at the boards, or if you haven't done so, I'd encourage you to take a look at these, but just a few highlights there. What's changed? Obviously, when the facility opened, there were about 11 sworn police officers in the city. And today, we stand at 31 sworn officers. And what that translates to, in our current facility, we're at about 8,000 square feet. So that includes the parking garage, that includes the office space, that's everything at 8,000. And as Elise had mentioned, our space needs study has identified that the current space needs for the police department is about 50,000 square feet. And also, in addition to those 11 sworn officers, we do have a number of support staff in the building, which currently sits at 9 people that would work out of there, totaling 40. One area of significant concern is a lack of security in the current facility, both in the parking lot, which is completely unsecured. There's no type of fencing, there's no gate. Obviously, inside of those vehicles is a lot of technology. There's rifles inside of those vehicles, and just not having security is a concern. Just prior to my time in Chaska, there also was an intrusion into our parking garage where a vehicle rammed through and somebody entered the police department. So we do have a tangible example of those security concerns. Also inside, just given that 8,000 square feet in total capacity, it shows itself very quickly. We have no dedicated training space internally, which necessitates that for all of the in-service training our officers have to do, we have to outsource that. We also have, I would say, safe to say, an inadequate ability to store property that we take in as evidence or property for safekeeping, and we have a very inadequate way to process that evidence, which I think is depicted on one of the pictures over here as well. And we do not have any type of a detention area in the facility, so this would be an area where if we're conducting an investigation, we have to securely detain someone for a while to obtain a statement, or for some other type of reason, that's what we would use that for. So, like I said, I'm going to keep my comments very brief, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief Kraus, but please, if you have questions, you want me to expand upon anything, let me know. I'll be here. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Kraus. I'm the fire chief. As Chief Seibert said, I'll be available for comments afterwards if there's additional questions that we can answer that aren't covered in the program. But I was asked to focus in on some of the fire department needs and why we're looking at certain things within the new fire station. To do that, I think you really need to understand how our operations have changed since our building was constructed, and even since I joined the department in 2007. Our fire station is nice, but it was never designed to accommodate some of the staffing changes we've undergone in the last number of years. It was never designed to accommodate staff officing out of there on a daily basis. It was never designed to accommodate people that need for staff to be there overnight. So if I look back to when I joined the department in 2007, the department was constructed of 44 on-call members. People responded from their homes or from work. When a pager went off, we ran 550 calls. Fast forward to the end of last year, we ran 1,441 calls for service, which is a lot for us. To put that in context, we've seen our call volume grow 100% since 2017, and we're adding 20% to our call volume year over year in recent years. So our call volume has exploded as our population has exploded, which has forced us to look at different staffing models. So we've adjusted from that all-call model I talked about before to a duty crew model of having 4 firefighters staffed at the station. They choose their shift, they handle the bulk of the calls. That allows us not to disturb every member with every single call that we have, and only the 4 that are there, and if they need additional help, then they call for additional resources. By doing and adjusting to this duty crew model, it is helping us sustain and preserve that paid on call model for as long as we can, which is very, very important. One of the advantages we've seen from duty crews in that shift is our response time. Even as last year, when we were staffed versus not staffed, so on Sundays we are not staffed currently. Our average response time, turnout time for our engines is 9 minutes and 48 seconds. We are staffed Monday through Saturday currently from 8 in the morning till 10 p.m. Our engine response time is 4 minutes and 36 seconds. So we're over 5 minutes quicker. Where that 5 minutes may not sound like a lot, but where that becomes very important is fire in a free burn state doubles in size every single minute. It's allowed to go unchecked. And a anoxic brain injury takes hold in an adult that isn't breathing in about 4.5 minutes. 5 minutes is a big deal. Some other needs that we have is currently we have some limited training opportunities. As we talked about with the duty crew model, we are currently unable to staff overnights. So all of our firefighters are at home, and they get paged in from their home to come to the station, get on a fire truck overnight. We don't have the space needed to add bedrooms, so we can continue our transition to duty crew staffing. The other thing that we'll talk about, and I'm happy to get into this in greater detail with people later, is the fire service in the last few years has gotten a little bit smarter with some health and safety initiatives, specifically cancer, cardiac, and mental health awareness. Our current facility doesn't allow us to adequately address these. Something as simple as how our PPE is stored. Right now it's out in a main area, exposed to sunlight, it degrades faster. In new modern fire stations, you don't see that anymore. You see that isolated. HVAC systems are designed to pull that air out, so we don't have that ability right now, so that air is in a main egress area. So those are some of the needs, quickly summed up, that we have as we look at a new facility. So I'll turn this back over to Elise.
So additionally, as part of the building improvement program, we talked about additional facilities, and one of them is our municipal services building. And so over on this side of the room, you'll see additional boards. So if you have additional questions on these particular facilities, they're located over there. The MSB, as we call it, is our identified priority number 2 in the building improvement program. As we talked about before, it houses our public works, our electric, our water and sewer, our stormwater, and our mechanics there. Our plan calls for expanding the building on existing property. As I talked about earlier, that's what some of the previous studies had looked at to see if we could accommodate this space. And according to those studies, it looks like we can accommodate an expansion on that particular property. It's important, as has been mentioned before, to keep these departments together. There's a lot of efficiencies in keeping them together, not only from being able to share equipment, some of that large equipment that's very expensive and difficult to get, but there's also aspects of our staffing that rely on that efficiency of being together. In our study by Leo A. Daly, we identified a need of approximately 175,000 square feet for that facility. Right now, we're just over 77,000 square feet. And I think the mayor mentioned the fact that a lot of our equipment sits outside all year round, both in the heat and in the cold and snow in the winter. With the lack of that indoor, storage space, that expensive equipment and materials just don't do well out there. So just quickly kind of looking, and I won't get into all the stats, you can see MSB was built in 1986, and you can see we just had 22 employees in those departments with 22 pieces of equipment. And you can also see kind of the amount of roads and trails that were covered at that time. Fast forward to 2022, we have 47 employees, 87 pieces of equipment, and the number of streets and customers have more than doubled in most of those cases. Additionally, as we look at our staff who house out of MSB, we don't have break rooms, we don't have locker rooms, we don't have meeting areas that are able to accommodate that. And our office space is just not able to accommodate employees to be able to have even desks to sit at to perform, any duties that they have there. And then to jump into kind of the other two facilities, and we've kind of bunched it as one, as the City Hall and the library, because they are currently in one space right now. So City Hall was built in 1987, soon after MSB, and it was designed to meet the needs of the community when we reached a population of 20,000 people, which was in the year 2000, to give you perspective. So we've only grown since that time. Really, that library was built in City Hall with the intention that it would move to a standalone facility when the size of the community got there. And then what would happen then is the city staff would then be able to use that vacated space to move into. So here in Carver County, how it works is cities are required to pay for the facility, the library facility, but then Carver County operates that particular library. So that when you ask why, a Carver County, facility or a Carver County function is being paid for by the city, that's why. The space study confirmed that we don't need additional space for City Hall once that library moves out. And when we look at the square footage of the library, generally the rule of thumb is 1 square foot per resident. We are looking at about a 35,000 square foot facility, and that's in order to be able to accommodate that future, growth in the community. Just on the City Hall side, we have one conference room, which we use, which is in the basement of City Hall. Every office space has been used, and there's no room for additional staff. Our IT department is housed out of the fire station right now. I think the mayor talked about the roof leaks that is causing that water to come in. Additionally, like the police department, security is not properly addressed. And then much of the HVAC system is original to the facility itself and has not had the improvements there. With that, I'm going to turn it to Noel Grasick, who's our Administrative Services Director, to talk about that financial impact.
Thank you, Elise. My name is Noel Grasick. I'm the Administrative Services Director. And within the department, we have our finance and budget operations. So we're going to look at some of the numbers for what's proposed for this project. Right now, we're looking at the 4 buildings. The public safety campus is at $47.5 million. This number is estimated based on the current architect that has done preliminary design works that you can see on the boards in the back of the room. The MSB expansion and remodeling is a $44 million project. City Hall remodeling is $11 million. The library is $19 million. And those two are tied together because we can't really move into the City Hall until we construct the library and vacate the current spaces occupied by the library and Carver County administration. So altogether, there's a total investment of $121.5 million for all 4 buildings. Now, all 4 buildings are staged separately and would be financed by a 30-year bond issue. And so we won't be issuing all the debt at once, but as each building would be starting, we would be issuing a 30-year debt. And that debt would be repaid by 2 resources. We are currently proposing to have an annual tax levy of $1,125,000 increased in 23. That was adopted last year. We proposed one for 24 to increase it again by $1,125,000, and then 2 more increases in 25 and 26. So altogether, those 4 increases generate $4.5 million. Because we have our electric, water, sewer, stormwater utilities in these buildings, we're also going to have the utility funds contribute $1.8 million. That's, again, going to be ramped up over 4 years, $462,500 for the years 23 through 26. So altogether, we're going to have $6.3 million of resources to pay on that debt service. So what will that mean to the average, or I should say to the median home? We like to look at the median home as the example because half the homes in the community are valued more than that and half the homes are less. So it's a good way of trying to get a central measure of what the impact is going to be. As you look on the left side of this example over here, we're seeing that the increase for each of those 4 years, 23 through 26, 6 is about $8 a month. Over the 4-year period in 2023, that would be $8 a month. The next year it goes up to, let me look here, it's a little blurry, sorry. It goes up to $15.75, the third year $23.75, and the fourth year $31.75. So that's a per monthly cost, and that's what generates those tax resources along with the utility resources to repay the debt service for all 4 buildings over the 30-year term for each building. Next slide. So what we've done here as a part of our future 5-year forecasting is we've looked at what is the current tax levy. That's the blue bar you see here in 21, 22, and 23. And we then put on top of that in red the additional levies that we just looked at for this debt service. So it does increase the taxes, but it provides the resources to move forward with this building program to maintain the existing service levels. And if you looked at the overall increase in that 4-year period for both the existing service levels and the debt service, it's going to be an average increase of about $185 per year over that 4-year period, each of those 4-year periods. Next slide. So, like I said, these are going to be staged over a period of time. That's to allow us some time to construct these buildings and to also issue the debt as we go forward. So the first one that is proposed would be the public safety building. We have anticipated taking bids for that project early in 24. We would issue the first series of bonds in 24. Construction would continue through 24 and 25 with occupancy in 25. We would then look to start the municipal service building in 26 to be occupied in 27. The new library would start at this time in 28 and be occupied in late 29. And then we'd be able to vacate the library from City Hall and remodel that in 2030. If you have any questions, I'll be available after the presentation.
So now I'd like our architects from CNH will provide you an overview on the public safety facility, and those boards are in the back and they'll be available for more questions afterwards. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So before we bring up CNH, we'll bring it up in a second. I've been asked to go through the process that we used to arrive to this point with public safety facility. Specifically, how did we get from a original concept of a remodel, an addition, to an all-new facility? So our process began in January and February of 2023. We issued an RFP to find architects and interviewed a number of different firms, specifically looking at our public safety facility. We went out and toured a number of different facilities and examples of work. We, as city staff, chose to engage with CNH in late February. The architects were charged with looking at specifically to address the needs of both fire and police departments on an existing city-owned site, and approach the project as a remodel of the fire station with an addition to accommodate the police department. So as Elise said earlier, this was we started this process originally with a space needs study conducted by Leo A. Daly. That study, they estimated that we would be able to use more of the existing fire station and remodel it than was later deemed possible. For example, the original study presumed a second floor could be added to the east side of our station, our east bays, where the floors would be used for crew quarters, locker space, training, decontamination, and other things. Those lost bays on the east side would be added to the west side of the station. And after CNH did a structural analysis of that existing buildings, took a closer look at schematics, it was determined that the footings and the foundations on actually both sides were unable to accommodate a second floor, and the east bay would need to be demolished in its entirety and would need to be reconstructed to accommodate the additional square footage needed, and we would still need to add more bays to the west side of the facility. The shape of the building also created another challenge for us as we looked at the remodel process with our interior flow. And what that means is the square footage would need to be added to accommodate current future office space, training space, emergency operations center as we looked at a remodel project. So all in all, a remodeled fire station was going to be bigger than would a all-new facility. So at that point, CNH and RJM, who is our construction manager, did an analysis of the costs associated with the projects, looking at what the cost would be to take down the existing fire station and build up an all-new public safety facility. That analysis found that the construction costs for a new building were nearly identical to the projected remodel and addition costs of of a public safety facility, and that's before we had discovered any other structural issues or any other issues associated with any other remodeling project. So, being that it was more cost-effective and was going to create a smaller and more efficient space, that's what led to the decision ultimately to take down the fire station and start all brand new. So I'm going to invite up Brooke and Quinn at this point as our architects, and they'll walk you through some more detail.
Good evening. I'm Quinn Hudson. I'm a principal at C&H Architects, and along with Brooke Jacobson here, and also another principal, we're going to go through different parts of the building. I'm going to start a little bit with how we really started the whole process, and that was developing guiding principles along with the city, and really looking at things that would be used as measuring sticks throughout that design process, making sure that as we went along the way, we were always looking back to these very important items. And as you can see here, functional and flexible, innovative, safe and secure, engaging and connecting, honor history, sustainable, health and wellness, fiscally responsible, and future focus. So those were items that we kept checking back in on. And truthfully, that was one of the things that we were coming at when we're talking about whether to do an additional remodel or all new, is evaluating it back to this guide and saying, is it functional? Is it fiscally responsible? And when those answers came back, that really the balance on that was the new construction. That really helped the process to understand which way to go. A little bit more on the background of the project. We started out looking at the study that they talked about had been done earlier and got a good understanding of that. Then we went through and discussed and brought our expertise and discussion to the process to look at what the current needs, the future needs, and what are the best practices in today's police and fire station design. So with that, as we mentioned, we looked at that additional remodel, and that was how we started the process, and only as we came further along the way, it became evident that we needed to evaluate what is the best approach for the city. With that, we developed diagrammatic floor plans, meaning how things fit together, where the flow, what generally the orientation of the building would be like. We did some reduction in overall square footage as we were looking at again, fiscally responsible and making sure that while it's still functional and future focused, that we were really just providing the spaces that were meeting those needs. And so there were a few things that were reduced in that approach. And so then we developed the current floor plans and the building that is being shown to you tonight. Through that, we went interior and exterior images that we'll be looking at. And this also has gone through a concept plan review process at City Hall. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the site, and as others have mentioned, we'll be around afterwards if you want to look at it up close on the boards in the back. But first off, starting out, the Engler Boulevard's at the top of the site, and then east is some office buildings, single-family residence down here, and then some larger apartment buildings on this side. Coming into it, the main entrance for the public would be this drive up here and public parking in front of the building. The building's orientated with the fire department functions on this side, some common public spaces through here, such as meeting rooms, lobby, restrooms, things like that, and then the police department's on this lower portion down here. Through that, we also focus on some important elements of making sure that there's a good connection between the main entry from that public area over to the park that's on this side. The park itself will be developed next year through a public process. So we're just allowing space for that, but the actual design of that will happen, and there'll be opportunity for input at that time for some of those things. Landscape plan is the next one to look at here. So things that we're looking at, again, is maintaining a nice path, asphalt path through the site, but looking at new portions through there, that. Important aspect was buffering the site from the neighborhoods, particularly the adjacent areas through here. So we have a mixture of different types of trees, heights, and a approximate 5-foot berm that goes along that area again, so that the backside of the police department portion is screened from the residences below. We have a central plaza up in this entry area, and then other functions. This side, this drive through that area would be for the police response in and out, as well as fire response and then fire out this way. So the public drives are on this side, the staff emergency response on this side. I think, yeah, and the other thing I'd like to cover a little bit down here, we have 2 diagrams. Again, if they're a little small, they're on the boards and back as well. What this one does shows the current cross section looking from the single family residences that are down here. So this red line is what's being shown through a berm that goes through here with trees coming across to the existing fire station. This lower one shows the same cross section. The building's closer, of course, as it's a bigger building. One thing I do want to mention, this is all 1-story portion of building on this side of the building. The only 2-story portion is right up here along Engler. But then as we're dividing between here, there's still a berm through that. We have a variety of different trees, shrubs, and a separation so that the building and parking area there is screened from the public areas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brooke.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to walk you through our exterior and interior imagery of the building. So starting with this first image, the map in the upper right corner kind of shows with the blue arrow that this is from Engler Boulevard as you were to enter into the main drive that Quinn pointed out on the site plan, looking at the northwest corner of the building. So some of the things that were very important, the fire department has a very long history within the city and wanted to have a facade that really was an ode to that history. And so we have a lot of the Chaska brick on that side with arches. We have both bells from the one that's currently at the station and the original bell within here. So as Quinn mentioned, the left side of this image is the fire department. These are the apparatus bays over here you can see with the tall doors. Then this is that 2-story structure that Quinn had mentioned. The first floor is office space and that second floor is the residence area for the firefighters. And then as we turn the corner, we have a tall tower element in the corner, kind of signifying that northwest corner of the building with some prominent signage to point out where, as you're arriving, where you are. And this is the main drive coming in. We still have some fire office area on this side, so we're still having a lot of the light-colored Chaska brick that's very familiar around town. Still a little bit of that second story for the residents. And then we enter into our main public area down here. We have a fire history display for one of the original apparatus, and then our main entrance into the lobby, which is this tall, clear-story structure here, and then the police is on the far side from there. So this next image is the whole north side front of the building, which is all fire department related. So this is from Engler. You can see again the arrow on that map in the upper right. So you can see more clearly now our apparatus bays on either side. We have a tall, prominent tower element in the front. This is their kind of center support area between the bays where they'll handle a lot of their decontamination and storage needs and training on a mezzanine level there. And then again, on the right side is that first floor is the office area with the residents up above. Again, working with a lot of the historic Chaska brick, bringing in the arch element, things that are very traditional for a historic fire station. Thanks. And then this is our image on the west side of the site. You can see again the blue arrow on the map there. So this is if we were standing at the park and looking directly at the west facade of the building. So that tall stair tower element is on the left side. Again, we have a little bit of the fire office and that second story residence up there. And then we have our main public entrance for the facility. On the left side here is the fire history display area. And then our main entrance is right here. It's directly across from the park, that strong connection that Quinn had mentioned previously on the landscape plan. And then we have a tall clear story space, bringing in a lot of daylight into our lobby space. And the original wagon will be displayed up high that you can see from outside and inside as you approach the building. And then as we move over onto the police side, this is a lot of their offices, a secondary entrance, and then the holding and detention area on the far side, bringing in a little bit more modern features. They're a little bit not as long history as the fire department, so wanting to lean a little bit more on the contemporary side as we moved around the building. So this is from the southwest corner of the site. Again, you can see that blue arrow in the map up there. So this is, if we were standing inside the secured fence area down by the police parking, and what you're seeing here is the generator enclosure. So we want to make sure that we are, we've fully enclosed it on all sides with structures so that we can help minimize sound for the surrounding neighbors. And then you can see a little bit of that clear story from the main public entrance, but then we move into, this is the holding and detention area. This is their vehicle sally port that's in that southwest corner of the building. And then as we move further down the drive is additional offices and their break and patio area. And just carrying on the theme from the front side of the building as well. So this is the south perspective. This is standing in one of the neighbors' yards to the south and what you would see from there. So we have a little bit of that berm buffer area. We're not showing landscaping, so you can still kind of see what the building looks like from this perspective, but there will be a lot of landscaping along here. We have our secure fence that's running the length of the property along the south side. Again, this is that vehicle sally port, and then we move more into the office and break and then evidence area on the far side of the police side. So then coming in inside the building, so this is our public lobby space. So as you enter the facility, right inside the doors, you have this nice long view down to the back side of the lobby. We have an area of actual historic Chaska brick that'll be put in there. As a nod to the history of Chaska, but as you enter in on the left side would be the fire reception. So they have a separate window and counter space here with an entrance into their secured side. And then on the right side is the police entrance into their separate lobby space. And then just beyond that, on the left side is the large classroom in EOC that was mentioned earlier. This, you can see it has all glass on one side. It's actually a sliding glass door. So when there are times if there's a larger group meeting need to occur than what that room can accommodate, those doors can be opened and the space in the lobby can be utilized as an extension as part of that classroom. So for larger meetings. And then we'll have some visual aids, TVs above that sliding glass door so that people can see anything that's being presented at the front of the room. And then just at the very end of the hallway is some public restrooms that can be utilized. And then we have a large conference room just past the police entrance as well. So this is the image standing at that far side that we were just at and looking back at the front entrance. So you can see our main front entrance here. There's that tall clear story glass that we can see from the outside. And this is the door into the large conference room. And again, that's the police reception entrance, and the fire reception is back up here. And then this is a view, you can see into that classroom EOC space a little bit. And then this arched entryway would take you directly into the fire history display where one of the original apparatus will sit. And then just a little bit closer look at as you come in the door, and you can see fire reception. Again, there's that entrance into the fire history display. We'll be displaying the original wagon. just right above that reception space that can be seen again from the exterior and within the lobby space. This is the fire reception counter and then their separate entrance. And then on the other side is the entrance into the police lobby. And you can see the main entrance from the outside on the far right there. So that's the end of the presentation. I guess I'll turn it back over to Elise to close.
Well, thanks again for staying with us through that presentation. I know it took probably a little longer than we anticipated, but there was a lot of information that we wanted to make sure was shared. We're happy to answer any questions folks have now.